8 questions that build trust and engagement. Welcome back to Brain Chatter, where we listen past the daily noise and explore topics at the intersection of leadership, workplace culture, profit, and sustainability. I'm your host, Derek Brown. This 15-minute episode offers 8 questions that anyone can ask of the people around them in order to build trust and engagement over time. I will run through the questions so that you can hear them and offer a very short explanation of each, but you can also find the questions listed out and written out in the show notes at brainchatterpodcast.com. First, let me say that these questions are not magic. I cannot simply ask them in the way that a cartoon character might say something like abracadabra and expect them to have an immediate effect of granting to me the trust and engagement of everyone around me. It is my responsibility to lead engagement and build trust with those people I work with, whether as a peer, a supervisor, a manager, executive, or otherwise. Even as a vendor, a supplier, or a customer, the responsibility to create that important engagement and earn that always important trust is my responsibility. If you do use these questions, it is also required that you ask them genuinely from a standpoint of caring what the other person says and listening them out, and from a standpoint of being prepared to take action on the answers when they are reasonable and when you do have the power to do so, even in part. Let's get started. Question 1. What do you think? If you are familiar with our company and with Dr. Ken Chapman, our founder, you have heard him say the following before. One of the most underestimated strategies for motivation is open listening. So again, this first question is simply, what do you think? And can be applied in almost any situation in a workplace or elsewhere. This means truly listening to understand what's on their mind, even if you think you're not going to agree with it. Question 2. Can you tell me more? There's a whole array of reasons that this other person may have told you something in a very short, concise way without wanting to bother you with greater details. Details that could be very important to you or for all concerned. This question invites the other person to tell you more because you have expressed that you are interested in what they are thinking, even beyond what they have told you so far. Again, this question is simply, can you tell me more? Or an alternative way of stating the same thing is, will you say more about that, please? Question 3. Will you share your ideas? Or said another way, I'd love to hear your ideas. This can be asked or said in a one-on-one conversation, just like the earlier questions, but it can also be extremely helpful and thoughtful in a team meeting. Maybe the most outgoing members of the team present for this meeting have all spoken up and shared their ideas or feedback, but you have one or more folks attending who have not said anything. Maybe they are shy or are an introvert, or maybe they've been shut down by a previous person in a previous meeting. This very kind question, directed at the person who has remained quiet so far, lets them know that you see them, that you have not forgotten them, and that you value what they think. Question 4. How can I be more helpful to you? This question shows you care about the other person, whether they report to you, whether you report to them, or whether they are your peer or your customer. But this is also one of the questions that sometimes solicits an unhelpful response. Let's play out a scenario along these lines with one of your direct reports. Let's say you are the supervisor of Agnes. You ask her the question, is there any way I can be more helpful to you? And her response is a slightly sarcastic, yeah, you can give me a 50% raise. And let's just assume that is outside of your power. You could scoff and walk away, which is likely to have a negative impact on your relationship. Oh, and also remember, other people around are also watching and listening to see how you manage the situation that Agnes has created for you with her response. So here is a possible option you might have. Well, Agnes, I do have some extra shifts I can offer you later this month. As you know, Justin is taking a week of vacation at the end of the month, and we are filling his shifts currently. Would you be interested in some extra shifts and extra pay that way? That's one possible response that shows Agnes and everyone else listening that you are serious when you ask, is there any way that I can be more helpful to you? You have now offered a realistic response that is within your control. Question 5. Is there anything that has been on your mind lately related to work? This is a pretty open-ended question. It is really an invitation for someone to share something that is stressing them out and that you may have no idea of without asking this question. As an example, you ask this question to Victor, and it goes something like this. Victor, is there anything that has been on your mind lately related to our work? Victor says, yeah, I saw on social media a couple of days ago that the XYZ company that does the same kind of work as us about 10 miles down the road went bankrupt last week. Everybody showed up to locked doors the next morning. Listen, I've got kids to support. Do I need to be looking for another job? Left to their own devices, people, and I mean all of us, may tell ourselves an incorrect story unless management, leadership, is offering all of the helpful and timely information that they can offer. This is your opportunity not just to take stress off of Victor's shoulders by explaining the truth, which in this case, let's say XYZ company went bankrupt because of reasons that have nothing to do with our company or demand for our products and services. This question has also, in other words, alerted you to what may very well be a rumor going rampant throughout your facility. Now you know it, and so you can address it head on, transparently, with everyone. Again, this question is there anything that has been on your mind lately related to our work? Question 6. Do you have everything you need to do your job? If the answer to this is yes, every time you ask it for 13 weeks in a row, that's completely fine. The person knows that you prioritize them having what they need to do their work, and they are much more likely to come to you proactively along the way if they suddenly don't have what they need to do their work. You can also hone this question by asking them, is there one thing that would make it easier for you to do your job effectively? For instance, their equipment or computer starts to crash and is interrupting their ability to do their work at their normal rate, but they don't know who to report it to for help. Do you have everything you need to do your job? May even get ahead of an HR or legal issue. An example? Yeah, I could use a little bit more peace from Pat, who makes a little harassing comment to me about once an hour, and I'm about to hit my limit. With this question, you have now uncovered an issue faster than you would have otherwise because you asked a helpful question. Now you can deal with it before it becomes a far bigger and more expensive problem. Question 7. How can I support you in achieving your goals? This allows the communication of acknowledgement that people are coming through the doors or gates of your workplace for the earnings that help them support the activities and people they care about outside of work. This question can be helpful for retention of the best people and demonstrating a genuine care and connection to what is important to that individual. For example, if they tell you, yes, I'd like to be eligible for the next promotion, but I don't know what I need to do. Now, because you asked this question, how can I support you in achieving your goals? You can take them to the next step by helping guide them toward what preparation or qualifications are necessary that they can be accomplishing now to be ready for the next advancement. Question 8. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Interestingly, I've heard a journalist and an attorney both tell stories of how this question completely changed the course and outcome of what they were working on at some points. Someone said something to them, and that was all that person was planning to say. And then this question was asked. Is there anything else you'd like to add? And at that point, the most important key part of the media story or legal case was offered. It is a short, easy question to tag on to the end of a conversation that sometimes can help both people get to the most critical part of the information. Here's an example. You are planning out a new software rollout. You are meeting with your team on the who, what, why, where, when of the rollout. Right at the end of the meeting, you ask, "Is there anything else you'd like to add before we end?" And it prompts one person to speak up and say, "I noticed our rollout date announcement falls on a holiday. Is that on purpose?" Well, no, it's not. Thank you for pointing that out. A simple question, "Is there anything else you'd like to add?" can sometimes catch a major mistake before it happens. This is because it prompts the other person to give one more look or to speak up where they may not otherwise without the invitation to do so. All of these 8 questions we've just covered help to build trust and engagement. In one way or another, if asked with genuineness, they all communicate to the other person, "You are important, what you have to say is important, and I want to prioritize listening to you and acting on what you say everywhere that I can." We know that other people appreciate this approach because we do ourselves. The questions also have the added benefit of helping you receive bad news faster. Problems rarely just evaporate in the workplace, as we all know. They usually grow. And the faster you can help deal with issues because of trust and engagement, the faster you can build additional trust and engagement because it is self-perpetuating. Before we close this podcast episode, let me list the questions for you again very briefly. What do you think? Can you tell me more? Will you share your ideas? How can I be more helpful to you? Is there anything that has been on your mind lately related to our work? Do you have everything you need to do your job? How can I support you in achieving your goals? Is there anything else that you'd like to add? This is not a comprehensive list of questions that create engagement and build trust. We'd love to hear from you on others that have been very helpful to you. We'd also love for you to use this podcast episode as a discussion starter for a staff meeting, a toolbox meeting, or a team retreat session. You'll find the questions listed in written format at brainchatterpodcast.com. This brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for listening. I am your host, Derek Brown, and I'd like to say a special thank you to my coworker, Kim McNanny, for her collaboration on this episode. Brain Chatter is a production of Ken Chapman and Associates Incorporated. We assist clients across North America and beyond with leadership development, corporate culture transformation initiatives, behavior-based professional development for health and safety issues, individual and team assessments, conflict and performance management, succession planning, and team building, making a difference in organizations and individuals' lives for over 40 years. Learn more at leaderscode.com. And please consider ranking and reviewing us wherever you listen to podcasts. The more reviews or rankings we receive, the more the algorithms recommend us to new listeners. And consider following Ken Chapman and Associates Incorporated on Facebook or LinkedIn, or The Leaders Code on Instagram or X. Thank you again for your valuable time.